We want you to understand, because you can introduce bacteria. You're putting a needle, you're breaking your skin. You can introduce bacteria, and some of those infections can be pretty devastating. So if you can keep everything as clean as possible, and again, the package insert to your factor, that's very clean. It has print on it, but it's very clean. All right. You're going to open your needle, and you're going to stretch it a bit so it doesn't all coil up on you. All right. I like using IV start kits. In fact, I think it's really good to have a couple of kits sent for you because they're great in your travel pack. It has gloves in there. It has chlorhexidine or alcohol pads. It's got the gauze in there. It's got tape. We use tape as well. It doesn't have your syringe, but it's all contained in here because when you're traveling and you go to grab your supplies and say, oh, I forgot a tourniquet or I forgot a gauze pad or something, the IV start kits have it all in there. So it's great to put it in your travel kit. All right. It's an IV start kit. They will give it. They will go. I don't know anybody who's been declined. Again, some of the HTC centers who provide, they might say we're not going to send that. And you just tell them, well, we learned that's the safest to have when we travel. Then we know we have what we need. And you've got gloves that somebody else can put on if they need to help you, whatever. Okay. So we get some tape. I tape it. I take a short piece of tape, split it in half, and then I tab it like this because this is going to go over maybe the pigtail here. Or I won't put it on the butterfly needle because what happens when I put it over the butterfly needle, you actually put pressure and the needle pokes through the vein. Even though the books tell you to put it over the butterfly wing, don't. Put it just above it. You just want to kind of stabilize that tubing, that needle somehow. So I get that ready. I've got my factor now. I've looked through my vein. That's it. I put a tourniquet on. I look for the veins where I'm going to go. Great. I know I've got them this morning. If I didn't have them, I'm going to hop in the shower because if you can, that's the best way to make those veins pop out. And you'll notice that so many more present after a nice warm shower. If you're difficult access, you're going to find a few of its cousins coming out for that, and you're going to have a few choices. So if you see that they're good, go ahead and mix your factor. They're not so good, how about drink up a bit? Okay, even if you had a bleed, all right, you have a little time to prepare. You can hop in the shower if you had. Some people just put warm packs on it. Some people just run warm water over their arms. But if you're struggling to see something, the shower really makes a difference here. All right. Most people will do their hands or their anti-Qs. I'm not going to get into the feet yet, but that can be done as well. Okay. Because when you do have a bleed and you don't have time to go to the hospital just so they can stick you, we want to show you where you can go if need be. A lot of hospitals say we don't stick the feet. Well, they're the hospitals. That's their rules. They don't stick the feet because it can cause a phlebitis, an inflammation of the vein. But that's only if you put an IV in there. You're just going with a little needle, go in and out. That's not going to cause a problem. And just remember, when you do go in to start, you always point that needle towards your heart. There was a gentleman who was like 40 who I got called out because he was having trouble accessing. He was taught in another state, and I went out to see him. And I said, well, show me what you're doing. And he was accessing his feet. And so he was pointing the needle down to his toes. So he would kind of infiltrate. You're in the vessel. The chances are it's going to kind of push the needle out and you're not going to get your factor. Okay. So just, you've got to point that needle toward the heart. Wherever you go, point it to the heart. I don't. Okay. I'll put gloves on because I'm doing Brianna. If it's your family member, that's your choice. If you have infections in your fingers, put the gloves on. Okay. But gloves are really hard to work with for many. So put the gloves on. And this is also with the glove is a nice sterile. This is sterile. Or it's clean until I touch it with my fingers. But again, no peanut butter here. All right. Okay, I'm going to have Brianna sit down.
guess I'll still hold this with my other hand.
And actually, I'm going to sit down. Hold on. That's very important to be comfortable.
If you're comfortable, you are much more likely to be successful. If you have kids and they're comfortable, this is cozy, right? I've seen so many kids who are swirly, they're anxious, they're kind of fidgety. You give them a pillow to hug. Maybe they've got one of those marshmallow swoosh things. My daughter has one that's bigger than she is. It's comfortable, okay? You sit down and you relax. Your veins relax, your body relaxes. You're much more likely to be successful.
If you hold your vein out like this to the access, you don't want to have to hold it.
You're wiggly.
You just want it to rest. Then that's probably 70% of the success. The game is get comfortable. How many people have these type of tourniquets? How many people have the rubber band kind of thing? Okay. They're both great. You just with the rubber band, I'll show you once what to do it. I usually, if I'm going to use your hand, I'm going to put either this around her arm or use her clothing or not. And I'm going to stretch this up like this. And then I'm going to crisscross my hand. And I'm stretching it at a pretty good tug. And then I'm going to tuck one little bit inside here. You don't tie it in a knot, obviously, because you have to untie a knot. This one here, you just take it off. So, and the reason I put it over something is because it hurts. These things grab your little hair. And every time you feel extra pain, that vein collapses. It's just a flight or fright issue. They feel the pain and they're going to take off. It just kind of plays down. Don't keep your tourniquet on any longer than, say, a minute or a minute and a half. It's because the vein, again, will compensate for that and it will flatten again. Take it off, reapply it.
And that doesn't mean rush so that you get everything done in 1 minute. Look for your vein. We mark our veins. Kathy will show you how to do that. Mark it, and then you're like, oh, it's been on there a little bit. Take the tourniquet off. Finish what you're doing. Prep things. You can clean your hand while the tourniquet's off. That's no rule that you have to be cleaning things with the tourniquet on. And then put it back on. Reapply the tourniquet when you're ready to go. The mark that you left there should still be there. So you still have a great bullseye to shoot for. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So
now, in these sessions, we give out what's called potty awards, right?
yes,
Potty
potty sticks. Yeah, potty.
and it's something I came up with. I mean, I usually tell the kids, it's, you know what a hottie is? A lot of them don't know it. Then I have to explain. A hottie to me is someone who's good looking, smart, and successful. They're hotties, right? They go, okay. But the acronym is an acronym for hold on tight to infuse. Be a hottie, okay? That again is going to be much a part of your success. If I were to go in with a needle and I'm not holding down tight, and I'll show you what I mean. And we'll practice it this afternoon. Hold down tight as you can, like you're kind of grabbing it, cat by the tail as it's taking off from something of yours. Just hold on tight, okay? And that vein will not move. You don't hold on. A lot of medical people don't hold things down, and they miss. They go in, they bruise it, it starts to leak. They might get it, they might not get it. This way, you can go in, if you're holding down, you go in, you might miss it, you might go through, you can come back and then retrace it. Okay, and you'll be able to manage that. If you let go of that, forget it. So that's another trick you must do. All right. Now, I'm first going to look for where I'm going to access Brianna. And you don't put a tourniquet on so that your hand turns blue. Okay, it doesn't need to be that tight. All right.
There's a happy medium.
And then I am going to get comfortable. And as I'm looking at Brianna, I see she's got some good straight ones right here. Straight. So I'm going to I will hold this and I'll look and I'll hold that and I think, okay, I'm going to take my fingernail and mark a spot where I think I'm going to go, or mark a spot over here where I think I might go. So I have fingernails. Some people might not have fingernails. So what you can do is take the cover of your needle, pull down that hand, and mark the vein where you're going to go. And you'll see a little hole there, okay? Because sometimes when you're pulling it down, it flattens. You go, where is the vein I just saw? At least you know it's there, okay? So can you, yeah, you saw that?
And just so you know, the hole that she's talking about, it's a circle. The needle is not touching my hand. It's just the cap has a nice circle on it. So it's a great bullseye to shoot for. And it's a reference point. You know, if when you do anchor that vein, things shift a little, when you have a reference, ooh, it's a little bit to the left of my bullseye. That's where I know I need to go. That's my target.
So because I'm not comfortable with Brianna yet, I'm going to fold up this pillow. She's still a little low for me. So, and by the way, when you've got a little kid that's squirming and doesn't want this does wonders. All right. They feel safer. They're sitting in their parents' lap and they're kind of tied in there and they don't know it. Okay. It's just they kind of know I can't get going. Right. And so they do kind of just release and let you do it. But I'm going to turn this up like this. Okay. It's fine. Because she was down too low for me. All right. I just need everything to be working correctly. So now I'm going to take my needle. I'm going to take the air out of the tubing before I go in. Again, I'm showing you how to do this as novices. As you get older, okay, you can do whatever your little heart desires. But as a novice, I'm trying to teach you to be successful from the start. All right? That's scary. First of all, you got to be pushing about 30 cc's of air to cause an issue. Okay? So even if air got in, as I tell some kids, because everybody's nervous of that, no, this gives you a little bubbly personality. No problem. Okay? So that it really is the problem. All right? But we do like to teach you to get rid of the air. All right? So instead of sticking with the needle, drawing the blood all the way back up into the syringe to get rid of the air, and then flushing it through, we take out that step because you want to take the shortest time necessary to do the procedure because you have a chance of losing that access. Okay, so let's take that out because if I'm drawing that blood up all the way, that needle's kind of saying, you know, the vessel is sucking down every now and then, and you could lose that vessel. All right, so we don't do that. We don't teach that. All right, but along with that, we're going to fill the tubing
with saline.
With
you can
saline.
ask
In the
your
beginning,
pharmacies to send you saline flushes. As you are much more comfortable with it, you get successful on a regular basis. You can prime it with factor. As long as you're cautious, you watch it. You don't want to shoot factor across the room, right? The kids have fun priming needles because they can shoot saline across the room. Don't do that with your factor.
Yeah. So the fact that there's such a small amount of factor now that you can lose a lot if you don't. We like to prime the same, right? You know, because if you lose it, then you've lost some of the dose of the tubing here. You've lost some things. So that's why when you're first learning, make sure you're secure. You've got that needle secure in the vein, and it's working right. Okay, and then you can switch out to a factor. But again, if you don't have the saline, you can use your factor. Just the other thing is on your factor, you talk about air. Okay, we put a little bit of air, just a little bit of air on the top here. And then I hook it up. I'm going to push it through. Everything comes out. And let's say this is all my factor I have to put in. And then you say, but there's an air bubble, okay? That's okay, because that will make you stop. At least you know you've gotten rid of all of your factor. It's gone through all the tubing, and you will stop it when right at the start of that air bubble. You can actually, if you're doing it slow enough, you can watch that air go to here, then you're gonna pull it out. okay? When you really get good at it, okay? It's a bit of a challenge.
I'll show you that. That's so, and that what she's talking about is once you've infused all your factor, to clear the line so that you aren't leaving factor in your line and you don't have to switch and flush again with saline. Every time you manipulate that needle, you risk losing the line. So we encourage and teach to leave like a milliliter of air in the syringe, hold it to the sky because it goes next to the top. It's the last thing that will infuse, and you can watch it clear the line. And you stop pushing when it gets to the end, and then you remove your needle. So you are never infusing air, but it's enough to clear the line out so that you're not losing factor.
So you don't have to flush again this thing.
Right. So you don't have to switch out. So we'll show you
You
that.
can flush this in if you want to, but this way you don't have to flush again with saline. And also, remember, air rises to the top. So you're not going to infuse this way because you're going to get that hit. You're going to keep the plunger pointed to the sun all of the time. Keep it straight up, and the air will rise to the top. Okay. Again, it's not going to kill you. All right.
Right.
But how much bubblier can you get? You don't want to do this every single day. So I detach it when I go into access Byrne. You'll notice some people will keep this syringe attached when they go in. But then you can't tell whether you're in or not because you've just put your finger on the dike. So when you get into your vessel, you might get a tiny little blood return, tiny, but then it goes. This way, you can follow that blood return and you know you're in, okay, by disconnecting. If I don't disconnect, then I'm going to question whether I'm really in. Am I going to infiltrate? Because it's not a huge deal. It just means you need to start another one, okay? So you just want to do one stick. And you also want to rotate your veins if you can, if you have them. I had a kid who used one vein every other day for 11 years, okay? Because he had nothing, and that's what he was comfortable with. And that's okay. You can do that, all right? All right, so you go ahead. I'm going to access Brianna for real. Tourniquet on. I usually clip it together first and then slide it on.
I put my bracelets on the wrong side this time. Right?
Well, people will have bracelets. Okay. Now, see, these are all flattened out on me because she's afraid right now. All right.
You want to put the tourniquet about 6 inches above your access site. You don't want it too close to the veins that you're going to be using, but you don't want it too far away. And that will allow for the right pressure, essentially. So if she's accessing my hand, right mid-forearm is perfect. If she was going to go for my antecute, my elbow area, you're going to put it a little bit higher than that, okay?
And see, these come out. The other thing is, everybody with a bleeding disorder who requires some type of infusion should be drinking more fluid than other people every single day. Keep your hydration up because you don't know when to need that infusion. Okay, so you kind of think about having that extra glass of water or two, a day. If you only have 2 a day, then let's go to at least 4. Okay. Beer might, but no, it really doesn't.
Caffeine also does not help very well. I have had someone say, I don't know why my veins are always terrible. I have, I drink all morning long. I've had 6 cups of fluid this morning. I said, well, what exactly are you drinking? I had 6 cups of Coca-Cola this morning. And so that is just good effort. That's not going to help as much as you want it to. So water, something that's hydrating. So also that person was very fidgety. So,
So now I'm going to go in. The tourniquet is on. All right. I'm going to wash this down really well. Okay. And give it a good rub. All right. Because many times you'll see, even you, Brianna. Okay. Sometimes they can have, there's dirt on it. That's all there is to it. Like, I know this kid's, but you like to let it air dry All right, you don't ever blow on it to dry it, but you want it to dry because it can get slippery as well. Okay.
Can you fan?
It doesn't work that well, so might as well not move the germs around. That's the other thing. You just talked about a fan. Shut the fan off if you do it. Shut the fan off in the room when you're doing it because it's blowing germs in your area. Okay.
I just released the fan.
Bothering you?
No, just over time. Longer than a minute and a half. So.
And when I put these on, I stick a finger under here because it can hurt when you catch the skin, and then forget it. They're going to walk out of the room because especially if it's a child, they're crying, they don't like that. Keep your finger underneath this and then let go because it will pinch the skin and that really hurts.
And you can actually see, so Kathy had that tourniquet on and initially my veins didn't pop up very well that second time. We just released it and redid it and they expect them to take the tourniquet off, shake it out, reapply, okay? And oftentimes they'll come right back up. So can you take my bracelet off?
No.
And scrubbing with the alcohol too can kind of agitate the veins a little bit, also helps them pop up a little bit for you.
I get the gauze pad and I have it near. All right. I'm going to take the cap off my needle. And there's something on a needle called a bevel. It's a hole. That hole points to the sun as well. Okay. If you go in with that bevel, that hole, I'm looking down, you'll be in a vein, but you won't know it because it will suck up the side of the vessel and you won't get a blood return. You might be in, but you're not going to be able to tell that you're in. All right. So you always keep the bevel to the top. You pinch the needles. Okay. And I'm going to grab her hand and see how I'm really pulling. I'm pulling tightly. So that vein is not going to wiggle at all. Okay. And I plant these two fingers as a base here. And I just work with the needle. Like, I don't know, who's ever done needlepoint? Okay, it's kind of like you just work with the two fingers, the thumb and the first finger. All right. I'm going to put my finger, I'm going to touch the area I'm going to. I'm going to just touch it. I'm not going to go in. I'm going to touch it so that I can mentally know where I'm going. And then I'm going to hit it and go, boop. There's a blood coming back. It doesn't come and hit you in the face. Okay. So you've got time. And you can help us over it. I'm going to put a piece of tape actually over the needle right here. I am now, because she's there with me, you're going to hold this for me. I'm now going to connect it. I'm going to hold this to the ceiling. She can take it off. So two people, they can work with you.
Right. Teamwork.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. The blood's coming up. That's great. And then I'm just going to. No. I'm just going to push slowly.
And you can see that Kathy put the tape over the actual needle, the insertion point, because if it is just over those butterflies, it will pop up and cause irritation or something like that.
But I'm not letting go of this yet. I'm not going to infuse her the whole time. I'm not letting go of her hand. I'm still not letting go. You notice that's why I asked her to help me with things. I'm going to then not take the tape off. I'm just going to pull it right out. Okay, because if you start messing around with the tape, you're manipulating that needle and that hurts as well. Okay, whoop. That's okay.
Looks like we have a question. It says, how do you put the tape over the needle?
Okay.
May not read it all though.
Anyway, how do you put the tape over the needle?
Yeah.
Well, I've cut the tape up prior to, okay? And I put it either on the side here or I put it on something that I can grab it. I usually tab it because it's easier to take off. Okay, put pressure, I'm going to show them what to do with pressure. And then this just goes over. Yeah, you can see it here. There's another one that's open. This will go over the needle right here, right there. Because you're not sticking the whole needle in. You don't have to put the whole thing in. If not, I don't put it over the butterfly wings. I might put it here. Because for most people, they get so excited they got in. And they're hooking up the syringes, and then they're like shaking, and then the needle comes out, and you go, right? So this way, if you put tape on the pigtail, you can pull a little tug here and it's not going to tug it out. All right. And then another trick. No, not before you put it in. Once you put the needle in, you know you've got the access. You put the tape over that needle, okay? Just so it's not moving around or to the pigtail, okay? But you already have your tape cut up. And then if it's a kid or a family member and you're doing this before school, and again, you don't want to rush, but you know his gym class is the first one, so you got to give it before school. You got to put this on. Hold on. Because I want you to hold that for a good 5 minutes. All right. And then we're going to put this over that. The tape. Okay. Go ahead and brush your teeth. When you're done, you brush your teeth. We'll take that off. All right. And then you know because kids are not going to put pressure for the amount of time you should be putting pressure on. We don't want to make scars. You don't want to make scabs. That's it. You want to try to prevent all of that because, again, these are your lifelines. You know, you're going to find some favorite veins and you want to protect those favorite veins. That's it.
And again, any type of bleeding, oozing, leaking after is going to cause a scab and it's going to cause scarring. And if you're using them over a period of time, as you all know, you end up with veins that you can't use anymore. So make sure you're holding pressure until it stops bleeding. You can also use Tegaderm, or not Tegaderm.
Coban.
Thank you. Coban. Because it has that kind of pressure, that elasticity to it that you can wrap that around it and send them off, brush their teeth, go finish getting pressed, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I would suggest asking your pharmacy for Coban too. We're going to use Coban for the next one, okay? When we do self-infusion, to show you what to do that all by yourself. All right.
If you have little kids that do need to be infused before school, you know, Kathy said the golden rule is get in the shower, right? You can't wrestle most kids in the shower or in the tub before school. But they are nice and cozy and warm when they wake up in the morning under their covers. So some kids are open to just sticking their hand out and letting you infuse them because they're warm and their veins are going to be really beautiful first thing in the morning like that. And then you're done and continue on with the rest of your day. Some people that works for, some people it doesn't, but it's another option because they are nice and cozy and their veins are really going to be ready for you at that point. So,
did you get rid of the needle? I did. Okay. Sometimes if you don't have a shower container, you can take that needle and you can spit out the rest of the saline or whatever you have in your syringe and you can tuck it into there. And then, and you just cover it. And until you bring it home, you can put it, if you have a glove, you just throw it because it won't come apart. It won't injure anybody. All right. So you can just pop that off, put your syringe in there, you can cut off the end of it and have scissors and just keep the needle on there. Now I'll do a self-infusion. Okay. And if you're doing it or your child is doing it themselves, we have a few tricks.
one of the other tricks that we like to have is we send out these little 99-cent tests. You can go to any dollar store and get them.
They're always good about that.
Awesome. When you have a Tourniquet on and you shut the lights down and put this on your skin, you obviously can't see it right now, but it will show you the little veins, right? They're darker. And so that's also a good guide if you're really struggling. Sometimes also, like if somebody asked about getting comfortable with this, that's something fun for the kids to do. Look where your veins are, you can find them.
You don't need to spend $500 on a vein finder, right? Okay? These are 99 cents, and it will show you where your veins are, which is nice. You know, and then again, you can mark it with your fingernail, you know, what's happening, just so that you have an idea of what your anatomy is like and where you can go. These are great. Now I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to stand up and do it this time.
And that's with any of your products, actually. The alcohol expires, it'll dry out, even if it's not been opened to gauze, and it's about the sterility of it. So the glue, the packaging breaks down. So just make sure you're using clean products.
I've checked my veins first to see, okay, before I mix my factor. This factor is only good for 3 hours after you mix it. You know, it starts to lose the efficacy of it. So and it's very expensive. So, I will get my needle.
For those of you that I didn't get to on the seminar with that 27 gauge needle at our practice sessions, that's all we have. We brought 27 gauge needles, so you can get a real good look at those to see what they look like comparatively to whatever you might be using now.
I'm gonna stretch this. This is nice. This company makes even a longer one, which is nice because it's easier for your infuse. So we'll give you the company's name. Can we give the company's name? There you go, Eric. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
We don't get anything from it.
Just what works.
I'm going to add something to this. Okay. No, I will add it.
So-
I'll add that later.
But this is an extension set. You can order these. This one is very long. You don't need one this long, but you can order from your pharmacy an extension set. I think they come in like 6 inches.
Yeah, 12-inch extension.
Yeah.
12-inch. That's so that I'll show you why. I'm going to tape the end of this to my thumb. All right, so that I can just quickly unscrew and screw on again if I had to. Okay, but if you're going to be anacute, you need a little more tubing. So you add the extension. It's just an extension of this tubing. Okay, and you flush the whole extension through, and then you can get here, because the trick to the thumb, taping it to the thumb, gives you a lot more independence, quite honestly, the way we're showing you. And that's probably why a lot of people keep the syringe connected to the needle when they go in, because they don't know the thumb trick. There was a doctor at Holmwell camp who showed me this one. No, it was a kid at Holmwell camp who showed me this one. He was like an 8-year-old kid. That's genius, wonderful. So I'm going to get my tourniquet.
Tighten.
And a lot of people say, but my right hand has the good veins. I'm not left-handed. How can I possibly go in? Well, we're not asking you to write a thesis. We're just asking you to go in and get that vein. And you can do it, okay? It is quite possible, all right? So, again, I've got this. I'm going to put a pillow underneath here. You know, in the real world, we'll be sitting at a larger table. Okay, we'll have a lot of space. It's when I cook the same way, just spread out everywhere. I'm going to relax here, and I say, "Wow, that's pretty good. I kind of like this straight vein right here." And I'm going to put a
You always want to feel for your veins. Don't just go for the first one you can see, because that may not be the best one. You want to feel it. If it's bouncy, if it's juicy, and the kids always laugh when I said it's a juicy vein, that's the best one.
And
If
see,
it's
I'm
bouncy
looking at
like
the
a
ceiling
trampoline.
because I'm strengthening my sense of touch by not using my sight. Okay, and this one actually is a much better one here. When you feel it, it's bouncier, it's much fuller. This one looks good. This one's a better one. All right. So I'm going to grab something and tighten up my hand. That's going to help pull this. Okay, pull this down.
You can use your factor vial, you can use this, anything. Make a fist, and that helps to be a hottie. It anchors that vein so it's not likely to wiggle out of the way.
You can almost on the table, you can kind of stretch your hand like this, and that's going to make it tighter. Okay, so that's good. That's where I know I'm going. All right. Yeah, we should set up a table.
What's that?
I always forget. It's been a long time now.
It has been. Get
Um,
back in the practice.
Yes.
I'm going to wash the whole area, because I might say, I don't know, and maybe I'll go for the other one too. I don't know, you know? And again, as I say, I'm showing you how to do this independently, but if there is somebody there who doesn't like needles or anything, they can hold down for you. They don't have to look. As I say, get the dog, train the dog to just hold down until you're ready to finish.
They don't have to look. They can be turned around. They just need a thumb. That's all.
It's just helpful. Mm-hmm. And what's also nice is you do have a family member who's nervous and just doesn't even like to think about it, but they know they're helping you. They do feel better if they can help you. So, okay. So I've got my,
It was under the pillow.
I'm gonna tape,
And when you have a big table to work with, you spread out and where you have more space, we have to retape because ours ended up under the pillow.
which will happen,
Yep.
and you'll find you'll go to work with tape on your clothes.
Oop, stuck to my finger. There we go.
So I'm taping the hard part of the tubing. I shouldn't have had that tea this morning. Hard part of that tubing on the end of my thumb. I make sure the hard part is secure. If I'm just doing the loose part of the tubing, it's gonna flop around. I want the hard part on the end of my thumb, all right? I'm now going to wipe it down. The area again. Actually, yeah, just. I would have had this sitting loosely. I can do it. It's been a while since we've done it. So. Okay. I know where I'm going. I've got my syringe. Make sure it's flushed through. Hold it up to the sky. Flush it through. This is why we use saline when you first start. Detach. Then you know you've got it all.
There's
the way
no
through.
more air in it when it starts doing that. And once you're very good at it, you can watch it. You'll see it go right to the end. So, yeah.
And then I'm gonna hold on to this. I'm gonna tighten that vessel. I want to keep that vein nice and taut. I can press with this finger too to keep it nice and taut. Okay. I'm gonna go near it. I'm gonna touch it, and then I'm gonna go in. Boop. Come on. Me. We know we're in. Blood's coming back. I'm gonna loosen this. Again, it's not unloading on the kitchen floor. I'm gonna hook it to my thumb. I'm gonna just, I just you can move it. Yeah, move it. Hold on. Yeah. I just moved it. That's my, I just moved it. Sometimes you can play with it and get it. Here it is. We're back in. You can play with it. And I'm back in. So sometimes you can manipulate it when it does pop out of it. You can push it back in.
And that's why we like the tape over the shaft of the needle, because then it won't kind of stand up on its nose. Just because it does that doesn't mean you're going to lose it.
So that's a good example of why we tape the needle. Okay, because if you see, even though I had this set, I didn't have this stabilized. Okay, and it did blow it. I was able to rescue it, come back a little bit and rescue it. But
and she was able to rescue it because she's anchoring that vein, so it's not moving. So she can just adjust the needle a little bit. The vein is staying nice and stable, and she can rescue it, like she said.
yeah, there. And I'll let. You know what? I'm supposed to be doing this by myself. I'll take that off. I'll put the pressure on here. I'll leave that hook to me for a while because it's more important to stop that bleed than to untape this syringe. So I'll sit here for a while and I'll untape the syringe.
Want help, Kathy? Would you like an extra hand?
You're the dog?
Yes.
The dog. There we go. Okay, we got this. I have more tape on my clothes too.
All right.
And
then we'll hold pressure with this or not.
yeah, I got it.
Put this down. It's nice inside.
I know, but it doesn't tear down. Thanks. Well, I'm going to show them. So this is what I meant about the syringe. These sterile drapes have a plastic backing to them. So I push out the extra saline. I fold this up like this, and I stick it in to this. And then I put this back on, and it's safe. Okay, and you can transport it home or wherever you are. You can cut the pigtail off if you want. But
and then the whole thing can go in the sharps bin when you get home. So
again, if you do infiltrate like that and you're not able to recover it, infiltrate means it popped out of the vein and into the tissue. you're not able to recover it, take the needle out, get a new needle. Don't use the same needle, and go through the process again. So whenever you're ready to set up, go with 2 needles always, just so you don't have to stop everything and go get something else. Because if you have the needle next to you, you can still use the sterile drape and everything else. It's all set. You just need to get another needle and flush it through.
And don't put a tourniquet on in that same area right after you need to hold pressure. I would recommend using the other arm, the other hand, whatever it is, because that back pressure can reopen that scab. That's a really fresh scab that you're trying to do. You don't want that vein to bruise more. So
yeah, because think of it. If you put a tourniquet on something that you just poke, that's when you're going to cause a nice bruising. All right. So
We got just a couple more minutes if anybody has any
yeah,
questions.
does anybody have any questions?
You guys last time we were together.
yeah, you're a hottie. Yep.
I don't know if it's Michigan, but we can't just call our pharmacy to get savings. We have prescriptions, and I have a nurse that's this old fashioned and wants to do that for all the blood. I got very creative in saying, I'll practice on myself like kinds of so I have a bunch of savings at home. Just
Very good.
So get that. And my older son told them to use them like I have the same.
So that in itself, your physician should write that order. That shouldn't be a problem. They should get that order because that's what he is comfortable doing, and it's the safest method for him. And so they really should. Do they refuse to write that order?
The nurse does. He again, he's like that's my returning to a lot of that. And but I just
Good.
I hope we actually can honestly the home nurse too. This nurse. I think you guys all taught us he's trying to take that away from you, but I just actually work stuff. Yeah.
Again, it's what people who have to refuse themselves over the years do anyways. We just incorporate it in our teaching because you want to put the least amount of trauma on that vessel, okay? Because you will see years ago, they keep checking. Is it, are we in? And you know what? That sounds wonderful, but every time you do that, that vein's going like, what do you want me to do here? It's like, you'll know when it's not. I knew when it wasn't, and I knew when to pull back and, go back in. So I think with these tips, use the tape on it to stay successful. And I think your idea is great. Yep, I want to practice. This is great. You shouldn't have to do that. And I think if you sat them down and just educate them a little bit more and say, look, this is how he does it. I want him independent. This is great that he's willing to do this. Can we just do this for him? It's just saline, okay? So I do have a hard time when I hear stories like that. It does make sense. Yeah.
We have time for one more quick question. I think that you had one. Absolutely. So yeah, we've been practicing with our hands, but you can certainly use the anticube. The same thing. You want to anchor the vein. You're going to hold down.
And you get comfortable.
Yep. And if you have something supporting under your elbow, you don't want it to bend, right? With kids, I grab that elbow and I pop it right up. I put my hand behind it so that there's nowhere for them to go in the pillow, whatever it may be, so they can't pull back. And that's where Kathy was talking about that extension set, because if you are going to tape it to your thumb, it's a greater distance if you're independent with that. So you'll want to ask for one of those extension sets to help you. But absolutely, these veins are great too.
Great veins, they're deeper. So it is nice to have a little long needle that we have here.
The one I showed this part of the room was a 1/2 inch. You can also get a 1/4 inch needle.
You do have to go a little
so it's a little longer.
But it's you don't have to go all the way up to the hub though. I mean,
yes.
You know,
when you get blood return, hair more and then stop.